Has anyone told you that people don't remember what you do, they only remember how you made them feel? If you have, you've probably heard this quote. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. This concept is widely applied in leadership, customer service, and personal relationships to foster trust and positive connection. In both personal and professional contexts, prioritizing emotional resonance over mere objective output creates stronger bonds and better lasting impressions. In today's video, we are going to apply this concept to targeting with a knife. Let's learn how to create positive connections and lasting impressions with our favorite people opener. Hi guys, so you're just going to need a normal trainer for all of this. I'm going to be using a bob. But basically, I like using edge weapons as an introduction to how to defend yourself or personal protection, mainly because of the psychological conditioning that edge weapons brings to the table. Other areas don't yield the same result. And what I mean by that is, like, if you teach somebody unarmed defense or you teach somebody defensive pistol or gunfighting, as some people call it, you don't get the same result as if you place a blade in someone's hand and you teach someone how to open another person up. And when they're at a seminar, a lot of times they bring like their loved ones, so it's like their daughter or it's their wife or whatever it is. And when you start having them fillet that other person, you get them in a close proximity, and there's a lot of these questions that come up. It's like, you know, why would I do this? Could I actually do this to another human? What would that other person have to do for me to feel justified in doing these things? These conversations come up, and because of that, the psychological conditioning starts almost immediately. Whereas in the defensive aspect, if you teach somebody how to defend against a choke or a punch, or, you know, they break into your house and you have to shoot them, in turn what happens is there's always this, like, I had to because that person is attacking me. And so when you teach offensive edge weapon techniques, just basically how to shut the human body down with a blade, the psychological conditioning is immense. Now, in today's video, we are going to talk about the psychological part, but we're going to talk about it from the perspective of the opponent. You know, a lot of times when you learn edge weapon work, you learn these angles of attack, you learn these templates, you learn about timers and switches and what is efficient to shut the human body down, and all of those are very important. But very rarely do you talk about what is really going to fuck with them. Like, if you were to accomplish just one action, it's going to fuck them in the head. It's going to cause hesitation. It's going to cause them not to want to play anymore, because you are tapping into areas that are off limits for most people. And I get this from our close combat training, and I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end. But the thing is that that's what we're focusing on today. And so we're going to talk about how to diminish someone's skill, right? So if somebody's in front of you that you believe has higher skill than you, how do you diminish their skill? And that's very easy to do. We're going to talk about how to immediately shut them down. And then the other part about this is, if you have multiple attackers and you're doing these techniques to them, they are going to hesitate when they go forward, because they know that this is what you are willing to do because you're doing it to their said buddy. So it's going to be a good one today. Let's get into the first lesson. All right, so this is lesson one. I named it the closest target and easiest way to diminish skill. And so basically, the fact is that in any altercation, the extremities are always going to be the first thing that get to you. So whether you're offensively attacking someone or you've kind of like moved off to some sort of defense where you need to insert this blade into them, their hands and arms are going to be in the way, and it's going to be a pain in the ass for you. And you need to get past that. Now, a lot of times what happens is there's a lot of trapping that's done. But what I've found is when somebody's hands are directly in front of you, or when you need them to get their hands up, any motion going towards them as their hands come up, it is much easier and much better to attack their hands. And so what happens is there's a number of ways to kind of practice this. What I'm looking to do is if his hands kind of like open up like that, all I'm doing is that I'm just cutting as quickly as I can to the inside so that I am cutting here. Another way to do that is a snap cut. You don't need a power behind this. You just pull out the blade and then you just cut directly down. And what you're doing is you're snapping, and I would aim for the middle of the hand. So if they retract their hand at any point, you're hitting the fingers. If you've done any live cutting on, say, animals, or if you had the opportunity to utilize cadavers, you will find that cutting through bone in a snapping motion like that or like this is not hard at all. And so what I want you to envision is you open your hands like this, I cut out, and I hit the top of your fingers, and well, they just go plop, plop on the ground. That's going to psychologically cause hesitation. You're going to have a tendency to look down and see those small fingers on the ground and like reach down and want to pick them up and put them in your pocket because they're important to you. The other thing is that like you won't be able to grab. The other way that you can focus on this is to stab into the hand, rotate out, and then cut out as you slide directly in here. So you can bring their hands up, so you can bring it up like this, and their hands do this, and you can bury, if his hands come up, bury the blade right into the back of their hand, roll that with a C-cut, and then cut directly out. Now, the other thing that you can focus on is not only snapping, but then work your trapping. Right? So this is something that's very common. You go cut, and now I'm trapping here, you know? And so what that does is it allows me to follow up, because you should. Once you start, it should be like a buzzsaw. You shouldn't stop until, well, you're done turning that person into mincemeat. So when I'm doing this, another thing that I like to teach guys is instead of like attacking the fingers, especially if they're in some sort of back and forth scenario, not really an ambush, but like if there's some sort of defensive motion where they can move their hand, all I'm looking to do is I'm just looking to touch the outside of their forearm, slide down to their hand, and then cut. And by doing that, just by placing the blade on that, it's a lot easier for me to cause that cut. Instead of me trying to swipe and then they kind of like move their arm out of the way. That's not really a problem if I'm going to follow up with something else. But the thing is that I can touch. Now, if I have a reverse grip, the same thing. I can press, I can stab into, cutting down. I can stab here, rotating. I can cut directly up, just like this, as it cuts into an outside position. If you are on the other side, me trapping the arm and then punching center mass will allow me to trap that arm, cut their hand off, and then I can start working in. Or I can grab and then drive center, because I have a controlled target, and then I can cut down. There's a lot of ways to do this. As I start working in, you can rotate in, cut this side, and start going. Later on, if that guy throws a punch or whatever, you can catch that, catch in, and rotate. Biggest thing is try to focus on areas, like you notice how that's not the easiest thing to hit, but so try to focus on things that you can create pressure on, like that. You don't want to have this kind of move out of the way. So I'm touching here, cutting in, stabbing here, cutting, grabbing, stab, and then I rotate in. You're just looking to destroy their hand. And so stabbing center mass, ripping that directly out. You want to get them to look at their hand, understand that the shit don't work no more, and make them think about that. And that is the easiest way to get somebody to lose skill. So nobody, I understand that people do these drills where like, oh, wounded wing, I'm going to use my left hand to shoot someone. No one practices realistically on what's going to happen when their shit gets fucked up and they have to deal with that. Even the combat veterans that I've worked with that have had their arm blown off and then they continued, there's always a psychological pause. There's a what the fuck is going on. They analyze a scenario. In turn, they're usually on a team, so there's a little bit of time, and then they get back into action. That's what I'm looking for. I want to pause. I want to cut your fingers right off your fucking hand, and I want you to think about that for a couple seconds. In that process, that's when I'm stabbing you in the face because you're distracted. And so that's the first thing, is targeting the hands. Now, cool quote is, 5 severed fingers do not make a hand. That's by Daniel Quinn. Kind of appropriate here. Next thing we're going to be doing is going into lesson 2, which is make them bleed. All right, so lesson 2 is make them bleed. We've already talked about the extremities, and basically that's our entry. But after you get past that first line of defense, the next thing is attacking something that is going to cause as much bleeding as possible, as quickly as possible, so that they believe that there's more damage that was actually done than is. And you see this a lot of times in mixed martial arts fights and UFC. And basically it's any type of cut to the face or any cut to the head is going to cause extreme bleeding. And so there's 2 ways to do this, or to kind of like talk about this. First off is any type of cut like that is going to immediately cause blood to drive directly down in front of their face, which is going to get in their eyes, and because of that, it's going to cause problems. The other thing is that because it's starting to gush down, when they put their hands up to see their face, they're going to see all this blood, and they're going to think that they're damaged more than is actually applied there, because this really doesn't do much. The second one, which is the one I prefer, is any type of attack to the facial area should be done in a way where you are trying to target vanity. And what I mean by that is you are trying to make it so that they believe that they're completely fucking disfigured as soon as you make contact. So when I cut, I'm taking the blade, hitting them in the face here, and then I'm going to slide this across. So I'm trying to cut into the face and across, hit the side of their nose, cut that bitch off, and all the way down. I want their face to just hang off of their skull so that they can feel that bundled up off to the side. So once I get past his hand, I'm going here and then I'm just cutting straight up, or I'm going here and I'm cutting directly down, or I'm stabbing, rotating and cutting here. If I have a reverse grip, I can cut up and away. From this side here, I can cut into the face and up. You're noticing that, let's turn him a little bit. You're noticing that when I'm doing that, I'm not doing the cool guy scar. So, you know, chicks aren't going to dig him afterwards. What's going to happen is I'm trying to cut his face off, like face off of his skull, so that he looks like Skeletor.
You want to take his face?
Yes. His face.
And in that process, you're going to get all the bleeding and you're going to get all of the disfigurement. And because of that, there's extreme hesitation. So the 2 parts that we talked about so far are hands and face. But vanity, we're trying to make it so that they understand that there's no surgeon that's going to put their face on properly ever again. You ever see those people that get attacked by dogs and their fucking face gets ripped off and that type of thing? I want that to happen with a blade. And you're going to notice that none of these techniques, the hand stuff or the face stuff, is actually going to kill them. So this isn't really murdery. This could be classified under non-lethal because, well, there's no death. You won't be able to claim non-lethal because you're using a lethal weapon or something that's considered a lethal weapon. But I am being nice. Lesson 3 is window to the soul. You've heard that saying, the eyes are the window to the soul. This is a metaphor that talks about that the eyes reveal inner thoughts, feelings, and character. And so what we want to do is to get in touch with that person's emotions, because at the beginning I talked about you want to focus on how people feel. So we're going to take the windows of the soul and we're going to remove them like this. So basically, any type of a cut that I'm going here, as soon as I find the ability to, if I can target, I want to go to the eyes here. If you are at distance, your slash should cut directly up and 45 degrees at this angle here and then cut across. Same thing if I'm cutting down on this slash. It's not a slash where I'm trying to hit with the bottom. I'm reaching out and hitting a target at depth. And when I do that, I'm actually just snapping my hand out to cut here and across. You don't need a lot of contact to the eyes to cause massive trauma, to make them go, ow. And so the thing is that would be enough. That would be enough. I didn't hit him in the eye. That would be enough. That would be enough. Or if I'm here, all you do is you just slide the blade down the face. Remember when you're cutting that face off, and then now you can just stick that in the eye. Just one is going to be fine. You don't have to be selfish and get two. But basically, if you are in any altercation and then all of a sudden you go blind, once again, we're talking about the psychological hesitation. I need them to focus on that. So if you wish to disengage with someone, to ensure that even if they had a weapon on them, they're not going to be able to utilize it, just stick them in the eye and then you can make your exit. So we've talked about destroying the hands. That works really well. Cutting their face off and then in turn stabbing them in the eyes. Give them something to think about as you leave, because once again, we're not doing any murdery stuff today. We are being nice and we're doing minimal damage. All of this is cosmetic. They can get like those bionic hands and cool stuff, so they'll get a cool upgrade there. And I think Elon Musk has a bionic eye coming out here soon, so you are just upgrading their quality of life. Lesson 4 is human biology. Basically, we are going to focus on the human imperative to survive and to reproduce. And that means that we're targeting the groin. And so the thing is that all of our focus today was on the psychological hesitation, and there is no greater target or no greater damage that you could focus on to get somebody to go, I'm fucking done, I don't want to do this anymore, than to stab someone in the motherfucking dick. Now, this is the belt line. Sometimes it's hard to see with Bob, so I placed the belt here. So anything directly underneath that is going to cause damage to the groin area. Now you're probably inserting from this angle. If I'm going to stab here, I'm hitting the bladder, and that is going to cause immense pain. It's going to cause them to curl over. One of the other things that happens anytime you cause massive trauma to the groin, either stabbing up or into that area, I can go for a reverse grip, cutting down and into this. You can do a technique where basically any time that the blade leaves the body, you're going to know that you're in an area. So what happens is if I slide my hand down, as soon as the tip of that blade hits air, I know that I'm in near the groin, and I can just insert that directly up. But the thing about hitting the groin or causing any type of real trauma to it is it causes an inhalation wound. That means they suck in air. They don't actually expel air to scream. Talking to forensic pathologists, this is very similar to if you were outside jumping into a heated pool in the middle of winter, and then when you jump in, you realize that nobody turned on the heater. You're going to suck in air. And by doing so, this is an excellent target if you want to shut someone up very, very quickly. And so you would have to do your entry, causing this, rotating in, or you'd sneak up beside them, whatever it is. And once you bury that blade into their groin, you're going to have a couple seconds where they've sucked in air, and because of that, it allows you to do your work. But like I said, when stabbing into the groin, what happens is this area here is just basically an abdominal wound, and so as far as the seriousness is concerned, yes, they do need to seek medical attention, but they probably are going to survive that if all you're doing is stabbing to the groin, rotating up, stabbing here to disengage. All right, so the groin is an excellent target for the psychological effect because, well, nobody wants their dick cut off. All right, so in today's video, we wanted to focus on psychological hesitation. What target areas are really going to fuck with somebody, and just a little bit of reasoning behind why. So I talked about the hands, making sure that that person can't grab, chopping their fingers off. This is a very easy thing to do with a decent snap cut. Most of your attacks where your knife hits bone, it's going to penetrate a lot deeper than a lot of people think, especially in a real scenario because of the amount of force that you're placing behind. So we're targeting the hand, and basically we're just trying to get them to look at their hand and go, holy fuck, and then that's going to cause some time to allow us to continue opening them up. The second one was make them bleed. So facial target, trying to cause any cut on the face. But if you had the ability to focus on a target, what you're looking to do is cutting their face off. You want their nose and you want everything off to the side. You want, when they talk, for their lips to be all the way over here flapping around, and the only thing that they see is just a skeleton. You want them to look to their buddy and that guy go, what the fuck? And in turn, that's what we're looking for, that hesitational pause. The next thing that we talked about was the eyes. Anytime that you make it so that somebody who spent their whole life seeing cannot see anymore, especially in a violent scenario, hesitation is going to follow that. And then obviously the groin. This is an off-limits target for the majority of people that are play fighting, especially in your social aggression type scenarios. People talk about how somebody going after the groin in the funny little memes, how that's just kind of like off limits.
Grab his dick and twist it!
Oh my god, dude, this is an MMA fight, dude.
You
Too much.
twist that dick!
Twist his dick!
Twist his dick!
Oh my god.
Oh, dick twist!
Well, if you take the blade and you insert it into the groin, then obviously that's going to play into that. Now, this whole entire lesson comes directly from our close combat training. So when I trained special operations and other units, there's a lot of techniques that you bypass because it's not that they're not effective, but one, maybe there's combat gear, but two, you want some sort of psychological effect too, right? So you want overt violence placed upon the person, and you want to make sure that if somebody's watching you while you're dealing with this person, that they hesitate to attack you immediately because of the amount of trauma that you're doing to someone. Or if you are trying to escape and evade and they find this corpse, what happens is you want them to think that an animal fucked that thing up, not a human. And it's going to cause them to wait for more backup before they start coming directly after you. So a lot of the techniques that are applied may be more for overt damage, something that causes, once again, psychological hesitation, not only in the victim, the attacker, and then the but more importantly, any onlooker. My father used to say that he wanted his close combat techniques to be so violent that anybody watching would involuntarily vomit because their brain could not grasp the amount of intensity and visceral damage being done to another human by a human. And so that just kind of gives you an idea of where his mentality was. And so that is where this lesson kind of comes from, just kind of like leaning into that. You know, there's very effective techniques out there. There are a lot of great systems that teach you flow drills and targeting and all this. But the thing is that if you focus in on targets that cause this hesitation, it just gives you just a little bit more of an advantage. You don't always have to use it. And like I said repeatedly throughout this lesson, none of this stuff's going to kill them. Maybe the bladder technique would kill them. And if you penetrated into the skull far enough, then obviously that would kill them. But most of the techniques are nicer than what I normally do. So what do you guys think? Are these targets things that you've thought about before? Are they in your normal rotation? Have you thought about the psychological aspect of it? And does it cause any type of what the fuck, or just questioning my sanity? Because that is part of the psychological conditioning that all training should apply. You should consistently get to the point where this type of violence is normal, because the closer I can get you to this just being a skill like any other skill, the more I am going to be able to believe that we're going to be able to do this in a real scenario. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're looking for more stuff like this, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.